So, about 3 or 4 years ago, I designed basically this. This is not the exact version, but it was something like this. I don't think I have it saved anymore. And I called it the Sea Donkey. Now this is basically a system of propellers to hover perfectly on water, using artificial buoyancy by just having them face up. Now this one doesn't even have any gyros, because 3 to 4 years ago we didn't have gyros, it's just using 4 of them. But you basically get this effect of having zero friction because you're barely touching the water at all, if even. Because, like, if I level out here, I don't even think I'm touching the water, technically. So you basically get zero friction apart from air resistance, which you can zero drag to not get, on the water. Now, I thought that this was really interesting, because, well, zero friction means that you can go to really fast speeds if you just, like, attach a thruster. If I put this into build mode, and then I can just put a thruster, probably, like... Not fully sure. Probably there. And all this is just things set to space on toggle, so I build it, and then I put it to space. I think initially I built this on Xbox, which I did transfer my blueprints, but I didn't... I don't think I have that one specifically anymore. So it was probably bound to A or something that I can just press when I get to the build. But then it kind of levels out, and then you have this. And then as you can see, I'm pressing the thruster. With one thruster and tilting these slightly forward, that's like 60 miles per hour without zero dragging it at all. Because we have zero friction in the water. Now, funnily enough, it also works with these, although there is a little more friction, I think. But this is a much easier to work with in some builds, so you can do it with this. But basically, all this is artificial buoyancy simply by going up. Now, you can use this with one of these if you have a gyro, but this is a fairly simple build. It's like, it's 9 blocks, forgot about the thruster. And it's really fast, and it's not zero dragged. So like if I go this way, we have the space thruster, so we can go like 100? Yeah, we can go 100 miles per hour with one space thruster without zero glitching drag. Now let's see what happens if we do. So basically to zero drag a build, I'm only going to do it to the front, but you can do it to all sides. You need to have detachable blocks, and then I'm going to turn on aerodynamics. You want to cover everything with just something, so that it can't be calculated, because like if I put these here, this will be calculated. I think there's also an arrow there, but I don't think that counts. So if I then put on, like, 2 pieces here, as long as they're not connected to the rest of the build, this front area is now zero dragged, assuming that I click on these and click make scrap. But that's only that front area, so I'm going to put that there. Put another one. And then pipes are limited when it comes to their connection points, so I prefer to use pipes. You know what, I can just go like that, because I can duplicate these here, because they don't attach to anything. Then we can get this, put it like there. You don't have to have it all on the same detachable blocks, I can, like, do that per se. And then, while these are still dragged, you know what, I'll just put that there. Put that there, see if I can do something about that on this side. You kind of want to just fill out all of the gaps that could happen, if that makes sense. Yeah, and then that's not connected to anything, so we can go ahead and duplicate it to the other side. Oh, this piece is connected though, so we are going to have to delete that. Put in a pipe piece. Just because it was connected to the seat there. Once again, select all of these, make sure we have them on make scrap. And then I can right click to attach that. And that basically makes it zero drag on that side. And now we're going... Well, we're unstable because of the masses in the back. But if I can not turn... We're going insanely fast, because we don't have friction and we don't have that much air resistance. The only thing I would say, though, is, like, that propeller, that the thruster is in the back, so it's going to try to turn to the way that the weight is. But if I were to remove that, move this to the back, and then put, say, a propeller there, which I think is less, like, powerful, because it's 200 power, this is 250, but even still, gonna balance it out a little bit. It can get a little bit bouncy, you should kind of have to correct for that. And then once it settles out, you can do that. Sometimes it's a little bit hard, sometimes it's easier to just exit build mode and just place it at the surface. Like that. It bounces less. As you can see, I'm just gonna thrust this, and it is actually pitching me a little bit down, so we're touching the water a little bit there. But we're going a good 250, 260? Yeah, I would say around 260 with one propeller on the water. Of course, we're gonna crash into that pole, but that's really fast for one propeller on the water. So eventually I made this, the Sea Donkey Mark III. I named it Sea Donkey because it uses the same propeller tech, and I named that propeller tech Sea Donkey. It very well easily could have been named anything else by someone else, and I would just not know. But that's what I'm calling it for now. This is all zero drag glitched, so if we spawn this in, it's just a little boat. And it doesn't have a ton of, like, buoyancy, per se, but it is completely automated with the buoyancy. Like, I didn't even have to press a button for the space key is pushing me forwards. So yeah, this is really fast and decently controllable. Like, I'm just gonna come in close to here and then turn right. Yeah, I turned too sharply for that. So this is the Sea Donkey Mark III. I also... this uses a lot of the tech from the space update. Now this one does go on land, kinda. It doesn't have zero friction on the land, so it is a lot slower. But it will go pretty good. And then if I actually turn off gravity here, it also works in zero-G environments, including space, last I checked. I don't seem to have the controls bound for... one second. This is not the version with the controls for space. So if I just go like that... yeah, I can go up and down. I'm going up right now, and then I can shift to going down. If I go in the water, I'll get launched back out. Because I still do have the propeller on. But yeah, it's a pretty neat little build here, using Sea Donkey tech. So the basic mechanics are that the propeller is facing completely downwards, and you can have that on some form of gyro. But I'm gonna turn off aerodynamics. But on top of that, because the propeller is facing downwards, you'll always get straight up thrust. Meaning that, not dissimilar to, say, like, a drone that uses these, except this works only in water, except it hovers slightly above. So if we were to have a setup something like this, then we could probably attach a seat onto this. It is backwards, so I'm going to flip it around. And then something like that, you know what, I'm actually going to delete that because I need a room for the NOR gate. We can set the NOR gate to that. And then having this set to, honestly, like 1.5 is probably good, 1.54. And then we can go over here. Looks like we do need more strength. Let's try 3. 3 is also just, like, a little bit weak, but it's also too much for this one, so we're gonna do 2.5 here. And then we're actually going to duplicate this over, so we have 2 contacts of thrust. Almost like a motorcycle. And then it'll balance out, it'll stop, like, giving too much thrust, although what you can also do is reduce this to, like, 0.9. That'll stop it from bouncing as much, because it's not producing as much thrust. But it's gonna bounce for a second anyway. If you had more weight, I think it would bounce less. So then you just kind of have this hovering system. I accidentally pressed S, which these are still hooked up. That is not ideal. Maybe move this up to like there. Yeah, and then we just have this, which this can't really go anywhere currently until we add some form of thrust or something. So I think I'm gonna line the bottom of this with thrusters. Go like that. Go like that. Do I want that type of thruster, or do I want to go for one of the smaller ones? I think I want to go for one of the small ones. Simply because I don't want that to dip into the water, but this should be good. Yeah. So then we have that, and we can press space. Yeah, even those are deactivating half the time. I am going to increase the output back to 1. And then honestly, I can probably get away with doing something like that. Make sure that they're all hooked up. They are. And then I can start going, and it'll hopefully stop bouncing quite as much. But it's basically artificial buoyancy, kind of how a gimbal jet works, where it's constantly pointed up and then it's just thrusting down. So that works just fine there. And you can go pretty fast. It's kind of like a hydrofoil, but it's not determined on your speed. It's just constantly active, so while it does use a lot more power cores, it's also a lot less friction. Because even now I'm barely contacting, well now I'm bouncing, but I had been barely contacting it at all. So this definitely is, like, one means of transportation, which I find cool. And obviously you could use, like, gimbal jets, but you would have to have it in... You'd have to have it hooked up to a distance sensor, and if they went under at all, they would fail. So let's set this up here, and then let's actually turn on waves, because last I checked, this worked with waves. So this is a less refined design. So I'm going to switch over to the other sea donkey real quick. There we go. So then this is intense waves. And we do bounce a lot more because the terrain is not perfect. Once we stop bouncing as much, we can kind of, like, ride a wave. Because we kind of just go to the top of the waves instead of floating, because we're just... It's water, so we just propel through it. One thing I've done with this is jousting on top of water. Because if your thing gets knocked out, you will just sink. So it's really fun. But I think that is where we're going to wrap things up, so thanks for watching. Use Sea Donkey Tech, and goodbye. Subscribe if you wanna.